Right.
All right, the Parks Committee of March 27th will get underway, and we'll note that Alderman Burnett, Alderman Johnson are excused, and Alderman Nicholson is likewise excused. And thankfully sitting in here is Alderman Scannell and the Presidente, Alderman, what's your name again? Sawyer. Okay.
Thank you.
Can I have an approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderman Sawyer to approve. Any changes? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. C is approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Scannell.
Second.
Second by Steuer. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Regular business, the first item is consideration with possible action on the request by the Colburn Neighborhood Association. And I know it says Ernst Drive, but it's to install a new Colburn Park sign on Highview Avenue. So,
I know where they are.
All right, so for this one, when we put it on the agenda, we didn't know that it was supposed to be Highview Drive. Our staff has been working with the neighborhood association on the neighborhoods, or on the park sign on Highview. That is something that would not need park committee approval, because what they're proposing to do is to install a standard park sign. So this would not be a neighborhood association sign. So we will work with them on the design of that sign, what it says, how it looks, and then the landscaping associated with it. They are going to apply for a mini grant to help fund that. Staff is supportive of it, but because it's a park sign, it would not need park committee approval. So what I would recommend here is that you just receive and place this on file.
I'll second.
there's a motion by Scannell, seconded by Stewart to receive and place on file. I do have a question,
Yeah.
Director. There was a request perhaps to have donated time or resources. Is that something that the neighborhood group could look into?
Yeah, we will work with them on that. I mean, ultimately, we'll find out how much money the mini grant will fund, and then we'll work with them to try and design it in such a way. Ideally, all of the city's staff time would be reimbursed as part of this. If there needs to be a compromise, we can work with them. There's also a potential that the city could fabricate the sign, because it's going to be our standard wood sign, that we could fabricate it and get reimbursed for that, but they could have donors actually install it, which would save money that way. So I've already had those discussions with the neighborhood association, and I think we'll be able to find a compromise.
Any?
I was just gonna ask the question.
Go ahead.
Is there,
Sorry.
so the sign is it's gonna be a normal park type sign, or is it gonna be a little bit different?
We have two standard type signs in the Parks Department. One is our standard one where it's one post where the sign kind of comes out and overhangs the post. The other one is more like our trail signs, where it's two posts with the sign in the middle. That is the type of sign that we're going to be installing, is the one with two posts.
So it's just lettering per se, no?
It'll be a wood sign with letters that are engraved in and painted.
All right.
And it'll look like our other standard park signs.
Okay, that's all.
The Colburn Neighborhood Association President Jess Bauer is here. Did you have any other questions about this item? I know we have another one on the agenda. No? Okay, thanks.
Okay. So we,
All right, there's a motion and a second.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 2, consideration with possible action on the request by the Colburn Neighborhood Association to approve the pool signage at all entrances to Colburn Park.
So I have discussed this one also with the neighborhood association, and what their desire there is to, most importantly, to see better signage at the main entrance to Colburn Pool off of Fisk. And then ideally, if we could do a little something at all of the entrances, just to notify people that there is a pool there. But their main concern is the one on Fisk. Currently, there's just a small little sign about this big that says pool with an arrow pointing in. So staff is in agreement that that sign really is not adequate for Colburn Pool. And, we should be installing more prominent signs so that it can be, showcased from the main entrance. So as you're aware, we will be bidding out the renovations to Colburn Pool in the next few weeks. The city bonded $3.5 million towards this project. It's anticipated that the pool and bathhouse renovations will not cost the entire amount, but we won't know that for sure until the bids come in. If there is leftover funding after the renovations are completed, the park committee could approve using some of the remaining funds for new signage. So at the conclusion of the project, staff will bring together a total budget back to the park committee, review with you what we spent on the project beyond what the bids were and how much money is left over. And then we'll also bring together a proposal of what to do with the additional money. One of those proposals will be, pay off the bond early, but there may also be other proposals on there, such as fund this pool signage or do improvements at some of our other pools, because we can use the funding for that. But it would be up to the park committee and city council to determine what's the best use of that money. So we do have somebody from the neighborhood association here, if you want to open up
I just
the
have
floor.
one quick question first. So
Yeah.
you said there's what, 3 entrances or to the, because I can picture the park, but I'm just trying to figure out all, if you
There-
need signage at all, there's 2 for sure. I thought
Well,
there might be 3.
We have one, we
Depending?
have more than that. I
Yeah.
mean, we have probably 4 main entrances
Okay.
to the park, including the one that we just talked about. And
So would that be consistent then, maybe for all 4 areas? or-
well, if we did that, if we put a sign on some of the other entrances, I don't know how we would direct people to the pool. I guess we'll have to have those discussions on where it makes sense. We don't want to draw people into a location where they can't get to the pool either.
They don't all
So,
hook up.
Yeah, well, you could have a curly cue. Oh, don't do
A
that.
tram.
so anyway, we'll just bring a proposal forward with what would be the best option
Alright.
for the pool signage. It may or may not include all of the park signs. I guess we haven't really looked at it that closely yet.
Okay, I'm good.
I would even think as part of the Colburn redesign, a sign would be part of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't even think it'd be something over and above, we're redoing the pole pretty much entirely. That'd be part of that initial.
And we can look at doing that. I mean, the big thing is we really need to see how much money is left over
What's the cost?
after the bids come in, which we should know that in a few weeks, so.
What is the cost on maybe just one of those signs? If you-
It really depends on what you're doing with the sign. I
If
don't
it
really
would
have a
just-
good answer for you. It
All right.
depends on a lot of different factors.
What would it-
Several $1,000s for sure.
All right.
Without objection, I'm going to open the floor. So
Yeah.
if you want to just come up here and give
I'll
your name
second.
and address? We have to make it all official before you start.
Story seconded.
I second it.
My name is Jess Bauer and I live on Ernst Drive. The traditional sign was almost $3,000, so that was out of the neighborhood association's budget. The trail sign, which they're so nice to let us use in an area that's not a trail, is $930, which is still pretty pricey for the neighborhood association. But Colburn doesn't have the best signage and it's a wonderful park, so we wanted to bring more attention to that. And I would just ask that the chairman keeps in touch with us, so when the bids come in and if there is extra money, not that we'd just like to have a say on what is done, because that's been a big, important thing to all the members of the neighborhood association over the past few years. So we're excited to see it be completed and have progress.
And this item in particular we're talking about is for the extra pool signing too.
Yes.
Right. Because
We
right
had
now-
even thought, like on Ernst Drive, if we had a sign that said pool entrance on Fisk, because with Google Maps and everything taking people
Yeah.
places, they could end up on the total opposite side of the park. So it'd be nice to at least direct them to the correct place. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to close the
Motion to
floor?
Close the floor. Alderman Stowe.
Second.
Alderman Scannell, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, so Dan,
I guess the proposed motion, I mean, you can take it any way you want, but what I would propose here is to direct staff at the completion of the Colburn Pool project to review the total project budget with the park committee to determine if there is adequate funding to improve the pool signage at the main entrance.
So moved.
Second.
all right, as Director Ditchite mentioned, we have a motion by Alderman Stoyer and Alderman Scannell. And any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. And those opposed, motion carried. All right, thank you. Thank you, Jess. You can stay, you don't have to go, we got hours of fun ahead of us. Consideration, number 3, consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman Scannell for the possible deaccession of the 9/11 monument. Well, want first, or who wants the ball first?
I guess I can just open it up to
All right.
Alderman Scannell if you want, otherwise I can give a brief history of where we sit with things. Why don't we start it that way?
Okay.
So, as you know, we've been talking about the 9/11 memorial for a number of years and the damage that's occurred out there. And I just want to give you a little brief history here on the motions that were made at the Park Committee previously. So, in September of 2017, this item came before the Park Committee for discussion. And what the actual agenda item was, it was consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman Moore to review council action and subcommittee work regarding deaccession of the 9/11 memorial. And so, that was the wrong one, I apologize. So let me start with the month previous to that. So in August 9th of 2017, the motion, or the agenda item was consideration with possible action on the, I apologize here. Okay, yeah, this is the correct one. Consideration with possible action on the findings of the 9/11 sculpture subcommittee to deaccession the 9/11 sculpture. At that meeting, a memo was handed out by Steve Grenier, and this is the exact same memo that was handed out at that meeting, discussing the deaccession of what was going to happen and how the process was going to occur. At that Park Committee meeting, they did grant authority to staff to move ahead with the deaccession of the memorial. And shortly after that was 9/11, and we had a ceremony where the beam from the original Twin Towers was actually ceremonially removed, and it was put on display at the police department. And then, before anything else could happen with the deaccession, then the following month, which there was another motion, which was consideration with, or another agenda item, which was consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman Moore to review council action and subcommittee work regarding deaccession of the 9/11 memorial. And what was discussed at that Park Committee meeting was kind of the findings of what was embedded in the concrete, to do research on the beam and what restrictions there were given to the city when we accepted the donation of that beam. And then shortly after that, right after that, what they did is they put the deaccession on hold. And so nothing else was removed from that memorial because of this September 27th, 2017 meeting. And then shortly after that, Alderman Vanderleest began a fundraising campaign. And so that's a little bit of a history with the deaccession of the memorial. If you take a look at that memo that Steve Grenier originally provided, on the bottom paragraph, it does talk about removing the remaining pieces other than the beam, but that was never done. So I guess from there, I'll pass it on to Alderman Scannell to talk about whatever he would like to.
Alderman Scannell.
Yep, well, I credit Alder Vanderleest for trying to rally the troops and save the memorial. It is a place where a lot of people do go, but, I mean, nothing was raised, and that memorial is in shameful state. And the longer it stays that way, the more shame on us. We need to do something. So I think we gave it the try to fix it up. Wow, morning.
Hey Randy,
To fix it up, and it didn't work out. So I think we need to go back to deaccessioning. Certainly we could send this to the Public Arts Commission. I did talk to the chair about that, and they'd be willing to, kind of excited about looking at what possibilities could happen there. Even if, I did talk to Director Dishite earlier this week about how this process would play out, and it may take a little time, and some things we might be able to do temporarily, art-wise, to, at least have something there until we can come up with a final plan. So, I would recommend that we just, would you want a possible, some possible plans of what could be done with it before we started deaccessioning? Should we just start deaccessioning and kick it over to Public Arts and should we do both at the same time? Or would you rather have some kind of art ideas in place before we started deaccessioning?
The majority?
It's, I'm thankful for, the efforts you've given on this older scandal, but I don't know, I think, there's respect for the monument in terms of what it symbolizes, but I think in the disrepair and the type of materials that were used, and, it's not up to the standard that I think it should be, so I don't have a real big problem with deaccessioning it and until we can further do something. I think the beam is the important element of that monument, and if that was displayed at police and or fire, depending, back and forth, I have no problem with that, and depending what happens with the new safety building, if that could be displayed there, I think that would be an appropriate place for it. As far as the towers and that, I'm not sure. I don't know how I feel about that, but I just think that, I believe that the citizenry, at least people I've talked to, would they appreciate the event that happened in 2001 and that, that it is a memorial. I don't personally have any issue or problem having it in another spot. So I'm fine with that. I still think it's respectful, and the fact that police and fire were instrumental in the original 2001 event, I feel that it would be appropriate to be with either police and or fire. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, I wouldn't have a problem with, deaccessioning would take some time anyway, correct? We can't, if we started deaccessioning, how quickly would that go?
Well, there's a couple of things. So, as far as actually the removal of the towers and the granite, I'd have to look into that, see if the city has the correct machinery to do that, and if we can do that with our own city staff, or if it would need to be contracted out. But I think that could be done fairly quickly, because there wouldn't be a large expense to do that, and we could probably find the funding internally to do it, or do it with the existing staff. But when it comes to removing the larger piece of concrete underneath all of that, that would take some time, because we would probably need about $30,000 to remove that piece of concrete. That was an estimate that a contractor gave us at one time, because it is a very big piece of concrete, and it needs to be broken up before it can be removed. So that would take some time. If we were to remove the granite pieces and remove the towers, we could just paint it temporarily so it doesn't look like a damaged piece of concrete, so we could at least paint it to make it look as nice as we could until we do get to the point where we have funding to remove the concrete. So I guess, long story short, we could do the towers and the granite fairly quickly, I think, but the concrete would be dependent on finding funding for it.
Well, I would make a motion in that we begin deaccessioning, and we can, I could put in a communication, or the chair could put in a communication to the Public Arts Commission to look at what could be done temporarily, art-wise, until we can take care of the granite, and then come up with a more permanent piece.
Just question is, so the beam itself is completely submerged, correct? As far as the concrete in that?
No, the beam is at the police and fire department.
Oh, it's
The
there
beam is
now.
on
Okay.
display
Police
at the
department.
city.
I was talking about the base, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The base is, okay.
Yeah, so there is the donor who installed the monument, they indicated that there's a canister embedded in the concrete.
Okay.
What the
Okay.
contents of what's in that canister, they have not provided any documentation to the city stating what was in there. So it's unknown to us where that is, how big of a canister it is, and what contents are in it, other than they told us that it's in there.
That would be the other concern, is when we take it apart, we come across the canister, do we hand it over to
I think,
Arts to,
well, I think if we do come across the canister, that should follow the beam.
okay.
And we should store that some way, somehow respectfully, until we can come up with another permanent memorial with the beam.
And we can do that to the best of our capabilities, but I can't guarantee that we're going to find that.
Did you have a motion, Alderman Scannell?
Motion to begin deaccessioning.
Motion by Alderman Scannell to
I'll-
begin deaccession.
That's easy for you to say. I'll second
Second
it.
by Alderman Scannell. Alderman Steuer, under discussion.
Thank you.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Any discussion on that? No, okay.
Motion carried.
Might change my mind, I don't know.
Okay, well, we got to council.
I know.
And I'll take the recommendation, I'll put in a request to
Okay.
the
Be a
Public Arts
Arts
Commission to do
Commission, okay.
something in the meantime.
Yep.
To the Arts Commission?
Yeah, Arts Commission, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then I'm excused, I think.
If you want to be, yes, you certainly are.
You can stay.
It's been fun.
Really?
Doesn't matter.
I can stay.
You can stay.
You let me stay?
It's up to you.
No.
It's up to you. Thanks for filling it.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to do it.
I was in the dentist chair.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
It wasn't bad.
Oh.
Are you leaving us?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave
All
because
right.
I was gonna go.
Thank you, Alderman Scannell,
I
for
did have
filling
some
in.
Plans, but.
Alderman,
Take care, Randy.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.
Alderman Nicholson's here after his foray at the dentist.
Foray
Got my
for an inlay.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
Sweet. Be true to your chief.
Thanks, Randy.
Fastest now.
Have fun, gentlemen.
All right.
All right, we will move on to number 4, consideration with possible action on the request by Compassionate Home Healthcare to sell and allow participants to possess or consume alcohol, beer, and malt beverage only on city deck for the Rock on Docks Green Bay event, July 13th, 2018. James or Dan?
So this event is proposed to take place on City Deck on Saturday, July 13th, 2019, from 4 to 10:30 p.m. So it'll actually be along the whole entire City Deck, so it'll take up Shopko, Cherry, Pine Street Landings. And they'll actually have 3 bands performing various times on all 3 stages. So their setup will begin around 3:15, music will end at 10:30. They're estimating approximately 2,000 spectators throughout the evening. And with the different vendors and bands and stuff like that, another 200 participants of the actual event. So Compassionate Home Healthcare is a 501c3 nonprofit, and they're sponsoring the event. Bands from all over Wisconsin and all over, actually, there'll be some other bands from around the nation possibly coming in too, and they'll perform on the 3 stages. It'll be a mix of different genres, including rock, reggae, funk. It is a first-time event for Compassionate Home Healthcare, and they're an Appleton-based nonprofit organization, and their fundraiser is to provide products or care for their holiday giving campaign, which provides shampoo, soap, toilet paper, laundry detergent, garbage bags, and other basic essentials to those in need in Brown, Outagamie, Winnebago, and Calumet counties. So this event is free for people to come into and check out, but vendors will potentially sell items, and there'll be food for sale and beer. So their security will all be coordinated and approved through the Green Bay Police Department, but will be the event organizer's responsibility. The event organizers will obtain trash barrels and bags prior to the event, be responsible for cleaning up before, during, and after the event. They will follow no vehicles being allowed on city deck, and all staging, music equipment, tents, porta-johns, etc. will be the event organizer's responsibility. They'll also be working with the Brown County Health Department to receive all proper food permits and licensing. So this event currently is going through the final approvals with the Special Event Committee. So the event itself is being approved through the Special Event Committee, and all costs and permits will be the responsibility of Compassionate Home Healthcare. Now, the Special Event Committee handles the special event approval, but why we're bringing it to Park Committee is because there's 2 different ordinances that this pertains to. So the one ordinance is just the sale of any items or food in the parks, and the other one is the allowing alcohol in the park. So you're essentially approving these 2 things. So I did actually tweak the motion slightly here. So the motion actually that we'd like to have approved is to approve the request by Compassionate Home Healthcare to sell concessions and allow the sale of alcohol, beer, and malt beverages only on city deck for the Rock the Docks Green Bay event on July 13th, 2019. So essentially, it's the same thing. I just kind of tidied it up a
All
little
right,
bit.
any questions? Committee?
Real quick, what time does it go till?
Goes till 10:30. So
So
10:30 is
3:30?
kind of officially when our parks close.
Well, what does it start, 3:30?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
Yep.
10:30, okay.
So that day, actually, there's an open streets event downtown from 9 to 1, and then this event starts from 4 to 10:30. So another Saturday to go get your exercise and then
Yeah,
go listen to bands.
I don't have any real big issue with it.
Any questions?
This is their first kick at this, right? And for the most part, you feel good about this?
Yeah, this is their first time event, and actually, I've heard quite a bit of feedback through the past 5 years as special events has grown that we don't have enough, diversity when it comes to different music, different types of festivals. Kind of a lot of people think,
Okay.
well, we're doing the same thing every year, so this would be a new opportunity for them to come in and make this an annual event possibly. So,
All right,
Got a motion?
that's a motion to approve.
That was right. Motion by Alderman Sawyer to approve as
As stated.
as stated.
Yeah.
Do I have a second to that? Alderman Nicholson?
No.
Any questions? Do you have a second?
No.
No second?
I'll second it. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carried. Okay, number 5, consideration with possible action on the request by D. Pier Dodgers Baseball to sell and allow spectators to possess or consume alcohol, beer, and malt beverage at Juani Stadium during their games.
So, I will say, we do have the president of the De Pere Dodgers here too. But to start it off, so with the prior leasee not renewing their lease at Juani Stadium, the Green Bay Bullfrogs, and the Parks, or I should say the Green Bay Bullfrogs is not renewing their lease. So the Parks Department met over the past 6 months with multiple interested groups looking to play their home baseball games at the historic park. So the history of Juani Stadium has seen many various teams, owners, and user groups who have played their home games at this park for many years. And this park is looked at as one of the baseball stadium gem for Green Bay in our park system and with the high schools and other user groups. So we wanted to ensure that another user could come in and provide good quality baseball that would be available to the public at an affordable price and host games at the stadium this summer. I will make note that actually through this process of meeting with all these user groups, that actually last year we had about 100 home games overall between the various user groups, high school, Legion, the Bullfrogs, and this year we're actually going to be around 120 games. So by reaching out to the community and seeing who could play there, we actually ended up getting more interest from other user groups, and also we had the opportunity to are hosting the Ohio Mid-Valley Babe Ruth tournament this year too, which is actually a pretty big deal for Babe Ruth. So that was kind of fun, but I also want to make note that our Parks Division is actually the ones taking on some of this maintenance that actually the Bullfrogs used to do through their lease and some of this other items. So we actually had to rearrange some things, and we're really focused on making sure that we provide a good experience, but also this year is going to be a transition year as we figure out, how we can maintain this facility and still keep it at a high standard. So the Pier Dodgers have entered into a 1-year contract with the Parks Department to host 22 home baseball games in June, July, and August. I think the schedule was attached to the agenda, and Parks Department is excited about the opportunity to have this user group, which will provide good quality baseball, like I said, at an affordable price. So at this park committee, actually the Pier Dodgers will be seeking approval from the Parks Committee for the sale of concessions. They'll also be charging admission and possibly the sale of any merchandise in the park, and also the ability to sell and allow spectators to possess or consume beer during games only. The Pier Dodgers are responsible for having licensed servers and security. They have submitted their paperwork for their 6-month liquor license to the clerk's office, and they are working with the Brown County Health Department to secure necessary food permits and approvals. And they also have all applicable permits, licenses, insurance in the process or already approved. So, and just to make note, the beer sales will only be allowed 30 minutes prior to the start of the game, and they will not be permitted to sell past the seventh inning of the games. And if the games would happen to get delayed or push back for rain delays or something, they wouldn't be able to have sales past 10:30 at night. So I would like to mention that we do have somebody here from the De Pere Dodgers, if you do want to hear from that party. They are focused on getting the community involved, and they're currently making commitments to reach out to local nonprofits to either volunteer or share in the concession proceeds, and really trying to get the community engaged. So
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson to approve.
Those are open the floor, but,
We can't have to.
I'll second that.
There's a second for approval under discussion. Any questions from the committee? Alderman Stoyer, or comments?
Well, I think it's good. We think it's good. It would be nice to hear from you, but I don't
Okay.
know.
So,
Is there anything different
Anything that,
that our staff left out?
I'll
well,
make the motion open the floor.
motion by Alderman Stoyer, second by Alderman Nicholson, to open the
Second.
floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Could I get your name and address, sir?
Tony Freeman. I'm 4084 Half Crown in De Pere.
Welcome.
I just wanted to, I guess, elaborate a little bit on the community outreach. We're looking at Sheboygan as a comparative analog. The Sheboygan A's noticed that they write a check, several checks at the end of every season to local and area nonprofits and activities. We don't have the background of history as a functioning organization to handle the volunteer side of that. So took a different approach. We said, let's reach out to the community organizations and share the take. So our focus is using sponsors to fund both corporate and other nonprofits to fund baseball operations, and then and our players pay. So the players actually pay about half of baseball operations is contributed by the players themselves. The other half sponsors. We've got some equipment that we've got to buy in the move. But then beyond that, the actual event, the day-to-day operations or the game day operations, that's the part we're looking to split with the local community in exchange for them helping with volunteers. So we've got VFW on board, several posts, or 2 posts at least, and expect to have the others. Legion, we're reaching out to Rotary, Knights of Columbus, any organization that has historically done something like that, so that they've got the license, they've got the experience, they can come in and help. So anyway, we believe it to be a good alternative approach. The biggest thing for me, I'm new to the area. I'm new to summer baseball. It doesn't happen in the South. It's just too hot.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a beautiful thing. And when I started learning about the history of Joanne's and the other activities, I wanted to make this work, and I volunteered to be president. This happened just in December, and the key piece to me is making it sustainable. I don't want to be at 1 year now. It's too much work, too much effort. There's too much at stake, and so that volunteer piece, if I can take that heat off the board, if I put together a board of people and they have to cook and serve beer and be at every game and do the announcing, clean up, throw trash, it's not going to last a year. But if I can find that base of volunteers through this outreach program or this outreach approach, then I think we can actually make this something sustainable. And I think from a financial standpoint, we can contribute more to Joanne's going forward, much like the Blue Ribbons did in the past. And ultimately our goal would be looking at, we're already de-emphasizing the De Pere part of the Dodgers, and we will look at some point at possibly going back to the Blue Ribbons.
That'd be awesome. Mr. Freeman, what age group is this? Adults?
It's 18 and up, basically.
Okay.
So everyone has graduated high school. They have to have, they may have 1 year of Legion eligibility left, but they basically graduated high school. Most of our players are summer college students. They're home for the summer. So they're all local, Kewanee, Denmark, as far away as Oshkosh. Denny Rue is our general manager. Denny Rue played for the Blue Ribbons. He's a fixture in with the Blue Ribbons, so
Yeah.
he's back.
That'd be nice to hear that name back again.
So
Andy
Blue
loves
Ribbons,
it.
yeah.
anyway, that was it, I think.
I know Danny.
You aren't serving booyah there, are you? Oh, that's it.
That's a different problem. This is something else I've never heard
Does
of.
Danny still live in the dugouts?
Does he still live in them?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
No, I'm talking about
Literally?
an address, yeah.
Um,
Ask him about that.
Must be an inside story.
Literally, one of my biggest
I'm a Green
concerns
Bay
is
boy.
Denny.
Oh, you didn't play baseball.
Yeah, one of my biggest concerns is Denny, and it's one of the reasons that we're doing so much with the volunteers, is he's getting up there, and I can just imagine him at the end of July trying to get the field prep for game, and he'll do it by himself.
Oh, man.
He'll try and do it by himself, and I'll get that phone call.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. So we're looking to try and make it a little bit easier. He's his job, and he's admitted to it or he's agreed to it, is to provide competitive baseball. I'll take care of the game day operations. He's going to provide the competitive baseball for us.
Okay.
Do
Looking
you have a
forward to
question
it.
about this, Director?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming in,
Thank
again. I was just wondering about, as far as the lineups and that, are these kids that have played high school ball already or Legion ball and they're just moving on, or is this open to other
Anybody that wants to play.
sign?
Mean switch
Not
hitter.
me. No, my glory days are done.
The league actually has a 38-year-old player plays in Oshkosh. So, I mean, we have the full range of ages. Sheboygan A's have a 28. Our coach is, Denny's recruited a potential Denny replacement. He's out of Oshkosh. He's 28. He coaches high school ball. His name's Kyle. He was Wisconsin State League Player of the Year a couple of years ago. So we kind of have a full range, but he'll actually play this year. So.
Good. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you.
So-
Motion to close floor for regular
Second.
order of
Motion by
business.
Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Story. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There is a motion on the floor and a second
To
to
approve.
approve.
Yep.
Those in favor?
Aye.
So
Aye.
I will make a
Opposed?
note.
Motion carried.
I'm gonna make a note quick,
Yes.
just to clarify that. So the motion will read, to approve the request by De Pere Dodgers Baseball to sell concessions and merchandise, collect admissions, and allow the sale of alcohol, beer and malt beverages only at Dwayne Stadium during their games.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hope to see you back here with bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good
Have
luck.
a great day.
Yep.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Yep. Number 6, consideration of possible action on the request
Terry Dalton.
by the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation to complete a prairie burn in the Bear Creek Greenway near Mackenzie Lane.
So the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation did request permission to complete this prairie burn off of Mackenzie Lane, and that's located in the Bear Creek Greenway, just south of Baird School. There are 3 areas right next to each other that they'd like to burn, and if you look at the agenda packet, you'll see a map with those 3 areas. So area 1 is the stormwater pond, DPW constructed about 10 years ago. Area 2 is located just south of the pond, and this area was planted with prairie plants the same time the stormwater pond was built, and the city planted that area. And then area 3 is located just south of area 2, and that's a steep hillside that the Bear Creek Preservation, that throughout the years, they've been slowly converting that area to an oak savanna. So they've been clearing out unwanted vegetation, and they've been planting prairie plants along that slope. So the purpose of prescribed burns, so they're used to set back the growth of invasive plants and then recycle nutrients back to the soil. And what that does is it promotes the growth of additional prairie plants. So it's a fairly common practice in Wisconsin throughout the state now. Similar requests have come before the Park Committee in the past, and they have been approved. Previously, the Park Committee authorized 2 other prairie burns by the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation. One was in 2015 and one was in 2011. The Bear Creek Preservation Foundation has followed the same approval process as those original 2 prairie burns. We had no complications or issues with either of those burns, and they were handled very well. So this burn will be conducted the same as the other 2. So it'll be conducted by the Fox Valley Technical College's Wildland Fire Program, and it will be supervised by their fire specialist. And this person also did do the previous 2 burns. They are highly trained, and they do possess the necessary equipment. They did prepare a detailed burn plan that was attached to the Park Committee agenda. The plan has been reviewed by city staff, law department, risk management, parks department, and also the fire marshal, and we're all acceptable to how that plan is written. So the burn plan addresses all the conditions and factors that are required for the burn to be conducted safely. It discusses what personnel and equipment they're going to use. It talks about who the contact information, how they notify public agencies such as police and fire department and the public. And then if all of the conditions in that burn plan are not met, they do not have the burn, so they will not hold it that day. Fox Valley Technical College is required to carry the proper insurance and also sign a hold harmless agreement. And then part of this, the concern in the past has always been notification to the adjacent neighbors. So if you look on the map, there are houses in fairly close proximity to this area. It's not directly abutting it, but it's near it. So what they will do is they will notify nearby neighbors of the proposed burn through direct mailings, newsletter, and the website. So I believe in this case, I think they're sending it to 200 adjacent neighbors. They will also have people posted in strategic locations during the burn so that if any public comes, they'll be able to prevent them from entering the site. And then more importantly, they can also answer any questions that the public would have during the burn. So the Green Bay Fire Department, Brown County Dispatch, and State Patrol Headquarters will all be notified 24 hours before the burn date, and then again 2 hours before the burn. It will be mandatory that the fire department will be on site during the burn. And then because the burn requires specific weather conditions to ensure safety, I can't give you an exact date of when that's going to occur because it's all weather dependent. But ideally, it would be later on this spring. Those are ideal conditions for a prairie burn. They'll only burn on a day where the wind will not affect will not affect smoke blowing towards I-43. So that's also another concern is smoke blowing towards the highway. And so if it's favorable to blow in that direction, they will not have a burn that day. The Bear Creek Preservation Foundation would be responsible for all costs related to the burn. So like I said, all the different various departments have reviewed and approved this. Staff is supportive of this request. We've had 2 other burns with them that have all been successful. So I would recommend that you approve this request.
Motion to approve.
I just have one quick question.
Yeah.
Alderman Stoyer.
Thank you. As far as, it sounds like everything's taken care of, et cetera, and there's been a lot of precaution in that, and I laud you for that, but in case of any liability, or if there was a problem, if something did happen, who does that fall upon?
Well, like I said, Fox Valley Technical College would be required. They're the ones who are conducting the burn, so they would be required to have proper insurance and sign hold harmless agreements
All right.
with the city.
Okay, I'll second.
All right, motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Stoyer. I know going to UWGB, they had burns all the time, so I'm sure it's similar to what they did there. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 7, consideration with possible action on the approval of the 2019 Community Development Block Grant Park
Thank you.
proposals.
I'm
Thanks.
just going to hand this out for you because we do have some modifications that I
You're
need
going to
to
make Mark's
discuss.
day.
Oh,
map.
maps.
Paperless.
Hey, I need graphics.
So on a yearly basis, the redevelopment authority approves $150,000 in community development block grant funding to go towards park projects. This funding can only be used in eligible areas within the city and must be used for neighborhood enhancements. They can't be used for large neighborhood or large community projects. This is meant for neighborhoods. So every 5 years, the federal government revises the mapping of the areas within the city and shows a map of where the eligible block grant locations are within the city. Yesterday, the planning department submitted a revised map with the new boundaries for 2019. So the map that I just handed out is different than the one that was handed out in the agenda packet. And also, the secondary sheet that I handed out, which listed the parks that are eligible and what the city's recommendations are for the park projects, those are different too. The map is quite different from the previous map that was used for the past 5 years. And so what you see now is probably going to be what's in place for the next 5 years.
This is current.
Yes, the one I handed out is the current one. So you can disregard the
one on
one in the agenda packet.
As well as the park list on the This is the updated one?
This is the updated one, the one I just handed out. So you can disregard everything in
All right.
the agenda packet. Everything I updated is handed out just now as the current copy.
Will the council be aware of that? I mean,
Yeah, so what I will do is I will replace these in the agenda packet for the council. So I'll take the other two out and put these in its place. And like I said, I just received this map yesterday. I apologize for not getting it to you sooner, but I wasn't aware that they were remapping it until I got the call yesterday. In my original proposal, I did have $75,000 to go towards a walkway reconstruction in Fireman's Park, and the remaining $75,000 to go towards miscellaneous paving replacement and ADA and new ADA accessible walks throughout the CD eligible area. But if you look at the new map, Fireman's Park is not an eligible park for funding for this anymore. So we did have to modify our proposal. So staff's recommendation is to allocate the entire $150,000 towards miscellaneous paving replacement or new ADA walks throughout the CD eligible area. There, as you can see, there's quite a few parks on this list. There's quite a few parks that have to, need additional paving to become ADA compliant. There's also quite a bit of paving within this area that is in need of replace. Parking lots, walkways, trails, sidewalks. So there definitely is not a shortage of projects for this funding. In fact, this is by far not enough for what our needs are.
So the amount is 150 that we have this year?
That's what we get every year, and that's all that they will allocate towards park projects on a yearly basis.
So you're looking more or less for maintenance in that? Let's say if there was a park that needed, maybe there was a proactive element or something that could be done in that park, because that could be not looked at? Just look at maintenance?
No, what we'll be doing is, if this is approved by the city council and the RDA, then city staff will work with planning staff to select which projects would take priorities.
So we're
But
not approving specific parks right now?
You're not approving specific parks or projects.
Okay.
I just got this information yesterday. What I would recommend is you just allow staff to set those priorities and determine which are the highest priorities within the CD eligible areas.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that now.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Stoyer.
And what we're actually approving is to approve the park projects and then forward the request to the redevelopment authority for approval, because they have the final say on the funding.
All right, any other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, consideration with possible action on the approval of a design, construction, and dedication agreement with Ducks Unlimited, Inc. for the Ken Oyers Waterfowl Habitat and Northern Spawning Restoration Project.
Yeah, so yesterday I amended the agenda and added this item to the agenda, so it should be in your agenda packet that you're looking at now. So in September of 2016, the Park Committee did authorize Ducks Unlimited to apply for several grants to install waterfowl nesting habitat, along with a northern spawning habitat improvements in the Ken Ewers natural area. So that was several years ago. Since then, the group has secured over $200,000 in grant funding to go towards this project. They have also completed the necessary engineering and have received all of the relevant permits for this project. Both Public Works and the Park Departments have been in constant contact with them and have reviewed the construction documents, and we are supportive of this project moving forward. So I'll just give a brief description of what the project entails, since we haven't talked about it in quite a while. So the project consists of a considerable amount of tree removal along the flood control dikes within the natural area. The tree removal is necessary for two reasons. So one, they have to create an open setting for the waterfowl to want to come and nest in that location. If it's all surrounded by trees, they don't feel safe and they won't nest there. So when you see ducks and geese nesting, it's in big open areas. Also, Public Works is in support of the tree removal, as is Parks, because those trees that are there now, the ones that are going to be removed, have all grown wild within the dike. And so the root system can damage that dike over time. And so really, in any situation where you have a flood control dike like that, you really don't want trees growing on it. So Public Works is supportive of the tree removal, as are we for that reason also. And then the trees that are going to be removed, a large portion of those trees are going to be placed in the bay for fish habitat. Now, we're not really approving that because those are public waters, and they're working with the DNR and Army Corps on that. So that's not part of our project. But that is where the trees are going to end up. Once the trees are removed, the inland slopes of the dikes will all be graded so that they're not quite so steep, so that we can actually mow and maintain those throughout the year so that additional trees don't grow there. Also, new water control culverts will be installed so that the city can control the height of the water within this nesting area. So basically, in certain times of the year we need water in there, and other times we need dry areas. So we'll be able to control the height of the water to encourage the nesting habitat throughout the years, throughout the seasons. And then when we do need to actually fill it, we will have to bring in a pump to fill it, and Ducks Unlimited will supply the pump for our use. So we'll be able to use that on a yearly basis as needed. And then to drain it, all we have to do is adjust the culvert structure and let the water drain out into the bay. And the northern spawning habitat would be created by dredging out a portion of the channel to create appropriate habitat for spawning. And then a second flood control structure would be placed at the western edge of that northern spawning habitat. So that's in general what the project is. So Ducks Unlimited is now ready to begin construction as soon as they have the city approvals to do so. Ideally, they would begin construction later on this spring. So they are seeking approval to hire their own contractor and manage the construction of this facility. And then all costs would be the responsibility of Ducks Unlimited. Do you have a question?
I think
Just
Alderman
a
Sawyer
quick-
had a question.
Yeah, just, you were mentioning, is there a number as far as the number of trees that are gonna be taken down in this project?
I don't know that offhand.
Is that
I can
something
get you
that they're
by
gonna do?
council. I don't know if they have a quantity, but I can give you a lineal footage of the dike. It's quite a number of them.
Okay.
So, but like I said, there's reasons for them to be removed. And a lot of the trees that are there are kind of undesirable cottonwood trees and ash trees, so they're not the best quality trees anyway.
Okay.
So, once Ducks Unlimited hires a contractor and they build it and the project is completed, the city would then accept the donation and would take on the maintenance of the facility. So we do anticipate it would take about 40 to 80 hours of staff time to monitor, flood, drain, and mow the dike per year. So it's not a considerable amount of time, but there will be some maintenance. So we would like to, the law department did put together a design, construction, and dedication agreement with Ducks Unlimited. This is very similar to the agreement that was approved by the park committee for the 4K construction, and also a concession stand that's going to be built at East River Optimist Park. So we've already done 2 of these construction agreements in the past. This one was structured very similarly. So this document, which you'll see in the agenda packet, it outlines the process and the approvals that their group would have to go through in order to ensure that the facility is constructed to our standards. Items in this contract include the plan review process, permitting, construction inspections, insurance requirements, and how to select approved contractors. Because this is a fairly large project, over $200,000, the city would require that their group have a representative on site to oversee the construction. And in this situation, Ducks Unlimited has constructed quite a few of these throughout the state and in other communities, and they do have appropriate engineers on staff to oversee the construction, and we are satisfied with that. In addition, city staff will be out there regularly monitoring the construction. So in general, I think all the ducks are in row
Oh, nice.
to move ahead with this.
Randy would have liked that.
All right.
Do you want-
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Strayer. That might be your second time doing that, but any questions, anything else? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I think it'll be done this year, Dan?
Yeah, they would like to start construction in the spring and be done in the summer.
Excellent. All right, informational director's report, updates, recent activities, park, rec, and forestry.
So crews have been busy, especially in the flood zone area, cleaning up the mess in the parks. There's quite a bit of debris along the East River Greenway, things that floated into the park, and we've been spending a lot of time cleaning that up. On March 20th, the park and forestry shop, we held our annual safety blitz. So this is an annual event that's a great opportunity for all of our park staff to get updated and trained on various safety issues. So this year's seminars included ladder safety, chainsaw safety, first aid, and there were a lot of other various items. So it's really a great chance for our guys to get, or our staff to get, refreshed in some safety aspects.
Are there certificates with that, or? are they
There's
just-
not,
Okay.
no, but we do bring in consultants to give presentations, and then some of our own staff who specialize in some of these areas, they do train some things. We are also currently interviewing and hiring staff for our summer positions. This would include playground leaders, softball site supervisors, pool staff, Bay Beach staff, so we're really busy right now this time of year trying to get ready for the summer. We recently filled the facility supervisor position at Bay Beach Amusement Park. As you know, in our budget, we did receive approval to hire a third full-time manager out there. So as of March 5th, we did hire Stephanie Kortson, who is filling that position. She's been a part-time manager out there for several years, and we think she'll do a great job moving forward. So the annual RPAWS training day will be on March 30th. So what that is our staff will come in and teach members of the public the value of volunteering for animal care at the sanctuary. So it's a great program. We do this once a year, and that's being held this weekend. So that concludes my division report.
Motion to receive and place on file.
I'll second that, but I did have one quick
Sure.
question.
Go ahead.
About the 4K program building at Wildlife Sanctuary. How's that? How are we on time and all that?
It's going well, so it's all kind of framed. It's starting to take shape, so the footings are all in place. The first floor slab is now in place, so it's actually starting to look like a building. So they're on track right now to be open for the fall school semester next year.
Dan, was the nursery affected at all by the flooding?
It was not. So it was flooded, but it drained. Ice did not get in there, and nothing was damaged in the nursery.
Good.
And luckily we didn't have any buildings flood either, not a single one.
Thanks for the help on there was potential flooding issue up at Colburn
Mhm.
along Highview. Sounds like you're taking care of that this year.
Yeah, we had a couple issues where the water backed up in the parks, and some of the adjacent neighbors were concerned that it was going to flood into their yards. So we had an issue at Colburn, and we had an issue at Edison, and our staff was very proactive
Yeah.
on getting out there and controlling that water and redirecting it as needed.
Yeah,
So,
you did a great job.
thank you.
All right, there's a motion and a second to receive and place on file.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next park committee meeting is tentatively set for April 10th. If anything changes, we'll talk about it at that time.
No.
Motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn, Alderman Stoyer,
Second.
second by Alderman Nicholson. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That's a wrap. Mark's been holding it for an hour.